Welcome to Freya's Fairy Tales. We believe fairy tales are both stories we enjoyed as children and something that we can achieve ourselves. Each week, we will talk to authors about their favorite fairy tales when they were kids, and their adventure to holding their very own fairy tale in their hands. At the end of each episode, we will finish off with a fairy tale or short story read as close to the original author's version as possible. I am your host, Freya Victoria. I'm an audiobook narrator that loves reading fairy tales, novels, and bringing stories to life through narration. I am also fascinated by talking to authors and learning about their why and how for creating their stories. We have included all of the links for today's author and our show in the show notes. Be sure to check out our website and sign up for our newsletter for the latest on the podcast. Today is part 2 of 2, where we are talking to T.L. Combs about her novels. After today, you will have heard about writing from a young age, learning from other authors before you get started, learning how to market, making mistakes and learning from them, working on multiple projects at the same time, her advice to take all advice with a grain of salt, and to not lose yourself in the process. The Audacity of Flower, the Carter Sisters series. Get swept away to another time and place, where Poppy Flower Carter's sheltered life at Murdrum Manor is turned upside down, when her childhood friend Georgie's actions threaten to ruin everything. Forced to leave behind all she knows, Poppy takes on a new role as maid for Master Louis Allen Yoon, a man with a mysterious past and undeniable charm. As she tries to navigate her new life and her growing feelings for Master Yoon, Poppy wonders if she can find true love without compromising her values. T.L. Combs, author of the fantasy epic The Bellum Realm series, delivers a heartwarming and timeless tale set in a Regency-inspired world that will reignite your belief in the power of love.
So I had a Discord prior to, like, when I started narrating. Around somewhere in there I started a Discord that I never really talked in ever. Um but when I started building like the beta and ARC team, one of the beta
Right.
readers was like, "You should have like a Facebook group or something." And I'm like, "Well, I have this Discord that's just like hanging out over
Yeah.
here." So as I was like finishing the book and doing, I think I did my beta readers got my second version of my book. So like I
Uh-huh.
alpha got like raw as I was writing it version. I added like 20,000 words, 10,000 words, and then the beta readers got that version of it. And so it was nice to have them. The one thing I'm glad about having got them so far in advance is they were like cheering me on as I was
Right.
like finishing it and getting the
Right.
edits done, and they'd be like, "Go Freya, go."
Right.
And so, like, that was super nice, and now they're all just, like, waiting. All of them were like, "We wanna arc read too because we wanna see, like, how you polished it after all of our feedback
Right.
and stuff." So,
Right.
I'm like, "I'm getting there."
Yeah.
Like, it's with the editor right now, so I'm
Right.
like I'm
Can't
like,
figure
I'm just,
that
like,
out.
twiddling my thumbs and ordering PR box stuff, so
Right. Yeah, I like to not stay still. So when my editor has one book, I'm working on another. And 'cause my brain doesn't shut off. It's just how it goes.
Same,
So,
same. I'm outlining the first novella in the
uh-huh.
series
Yeah,
as the editor has it.
I did a novella, a Christmas novella that comes out in November.
Oh my goodness.
I wrote that over Labor Day weekend.
See, I have so many things. I'm like, I just did a TikTok on this. I'm like, my day, because I have like ADHD brain stuff going on. So like my
Right,
whole day, and I've had it, my whole life.
right.
And until TikTok, I had no idea that that's what my brain was.
Same.
Um, so
No idea.
I'm not diagnosed at all, but
Right.
definitely from all the videos that I've seen, ADHD and probably some kind of autism going on up in there too. And so I'm like, when you grow up your whole life with your brain working a certain way, you kind of
Yeah.
learn, like, this is how my day has to be. So I start narrating and podcast about the same time. And so, like, I just learned, like, this is how my day is scheduled around my day job stuff and all of this. And then when
Right.
writing came into the picture, it was like, just make sure, like, I started narrating less during each day. So instead
Right.
of recording an hour and a half a day, I now only do an hour. So I have time to edit it and then work on my book.
Right.
So that's
Right.
for a while there because I didn't want to start working because my brain it forgets things very easily. I didn't
Right.
want to start working on the next book until the editor had the book because any amount of edits I had to do, I didn't want to confuse book 1 with the first novella. So
Got you.
it's
Got you.
like it's like keep them separated, but now that the editor has the book, I'm like there's not going to be any more major plot changes that I need to worry about.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, I typically my brain compartmentalizes everything
mhm.
and because that's thanks trauma. So I can separate every single one of them, and I always tell people it's like a GIF in my head of each book, and they're
Yeah.
just on pause and just like in that last scene that I left them on, and I can see them just about to start
Just
that
waiting.
scene, just waiting. And I just like pull out that file and just like, all right, oh yeah, we're here, and just keep going from there. So like, yeah, that's how my brain works, and I know I can file things away because I literally have always I have 6 different work in progresses at any given
Oh
moment.
gosh.
So I finish one, I start another. So that one just okay. So I just the next one moves back up, and I just finish that one up, and I add another. It's like a vicious cycle. So I guess I'm in the right career now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
See,
works.
I started writing in like January of last year and because it was
Mhm.
like I was landing all these nonfiction audiobook contracts. So I'm like, I'm just gonna write my own fiction book if no one else wants me for
Right.
fiction. So
Right.
I was like, I'm a pantser. I'm definitely a pantser. Like I don't plots aren't gonna work for me. And so that's what I did with that book. And like when I went back to look at it, because I started landing other people's fiction audiobooks.
Right.
So when I finally like 6 months later went back to look at it, I'm like, this is mostly just dialogue.
Yeah.
There's no inner dialogue. So when I started the Beauty and the Beast retelling, I was like, we're going to use Christmas songs to
Yeah.
outline this book. And so, but having so where you can like pause and see the scene in your head, for me, I know what the next plot point is that and
Hmm.
the plot point's like 5 to 10 words. It's not some big drawn out thing.
Right.
Introduce female main character in this chapter. Like
Right.
they're not genius plot points at all. But in my head, as I go about my day while I'm doing everything else I do before I get to writing time,
Right.
figuring out how are we getting to the next plot point in my head. So, like, in my head right now, because I haven't actually started writing, I'm still outlining the novella.
Hmm.
I have the first opening scene is completely written in my head. I just have to actually
Put it
be
down.
able to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen and who's going to be in the scene and who's going to interrupt the scene. Like, I know all of these things already. I just need to
Right.
write it.
That's cool though. Yeah, I typically how I do it now, after learning that I most definitely can't be a pantser writing fantasy. It's just not going to work out,
Mm-mm.
especially if you're doing a series. That's not going to happen. So, and I don't even know if I knew it was going to be a series until I was like halfway through the first book. Um, I was just writing, and so after that, I was about the second half of the first book. I started outlining, and when I say outlining, I mean that in the loosest form of the word.
Yeah.
I, just bullet points of like, I wanted this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, and
That's essentially what
and then
mine is.
yeah, and
Bullet
then I'll do
points.
a paragraph, like a summation of the whole story, and and it makes no sense, but to me, like if anybody else
Right.
were to read it, they're like, what is this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I get it, so it's not for you. It's for me. So now that's what I do going into any story I decide I want to write. Like I immediately do character traits, character
Mhm.
characteristics and eye color, all that stuff under each name. And I just do like write every one of the characters that I thought of during that whole process
Mhm.
out. And then I write a summary of the entire story from beginning to end. And then sometimes with the novella, I did a bullet point of every chapter. Like, this is what this chapter is going to be about. This is what this chapter is going to be about. Da, 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 da. And that's how I wrote that. So I just ticked it off as I was going and just like, okay, that one's done. That one's done. That one's done. And
I did that for some of my beta reader edits. Like,
yeah,
they said I needed to add like more running into the story. I don't know where I'm going to add that yet. So we're just going to write it on a sticky note and we'll
yeah,
mark it off when we get there.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's essentially what I did. I just made sure I had all the main points I wanted to hit. And we're gonna edit it this month, this coming month in October, and get through that and send it out. Hope for the best. But as a Christmas note, again, it's really short, really cute, and it's introducing the third book in this situation that I didn't know I was gonna write. Because it was just supposed to be one cozy read, and it turned out to be 3 books. So I'm a little more than halfway done with the third book. Actually working on it earlier today.
So you don't stop.
No, no, my
So
brain never shuts off.
so your Christmas novella is coming next, and then the
Yeah,
next book is coming after that. And
yeah, and
so
then the third book in my fantasy series should be out in like springtime sometime of
so
next
how
year.
has with each clearly you would have learned something with each book as you
One would
got it
hope.
out. So how does your like promoting and talking about and marketing your book differ now from just talking about the characters? Do you still use that same
Yeah,
formula?
I definitely use the same general formula. It's a lot more condensed now,
Mhm.
because there are so many of them.
Yeah. You're like, I got to talk about
So
that first book occasionally.
yeah, yeah. So that one's always like I always make a freebie for that one. It's just like, yeah, take that one, just get it out of here, just go ahead and get it. So like we did stuff your Kindle days, I guess this past couple on this starting what Wednesday or Thursday, and I was like, nah, we'll make it till Monday. And I was just, there you go. You guys can have it free till
I
Monday.
did see that video where you were like, it's free for a few more days.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I added to it. So that's pretty much my promos for that. It's like, oh, it's on discount. Oh, it's free. Yep, it's discounted again. Like, so those are my promos for book one now.
They're going to be like, I don't need to pay full price. I'll just wait a week and she'll have it on sale again.
Right. I think the last time it was free was like in July. So it's not like
It hasn't been that long.
so and it does really well every time. So I mean it's great getting the name out and everything.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people are just buying book 2 with it. When
Mhm.
they get the free one, they just buy book 2. So it's great. So it's been a great thing for that.
Right.
Um so and they're like, oh, she has another one, and then they buy that one. Good. Uh but yeah, so for the most part, lately, I've just been like bulking them all up together in one video, not even talking about because I find that the videos that I'm just kind of blase, whatever, hear my books, please buy them. People are just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is hilarious. I'm gonna buy them. And it's just like I worked 2 hours on that video. You guys didn't even see it.
Yeah, my entire approach to TikTok. In fact, someone said something about, "Oh, you got to start doing like professional marketing videos." And I'm like, that has not been my platform the entire time. Like I am sweaty in my dark when I started, I was in a closet. Now I'm
Yeah.
in a booth, but I'm like, I am like sweating with no makeup on. In fact, my sister at one point was like, I think your TikToks, she is not in book talk.
Yeah.
She's not in book talk.
Right.
But she was like, I think your videos would do better if you like, put on makeup and maybe dressed up a little bit because that's all the ones that I see doing really well are all like blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
Different.
you clearly don't see
You're
book videos.
Look, my best videos are with me looking completely haggard, just woke up, have a bun on my head, and those get thousands of views. And I'm just like,
They're
when I
like,
actually
this
take the
is a hot
time,
mess. I relate.
right, do it. She's got it. Anytime I'm talking about how crazy I am or my ADHD or any of those things, those take off. But like if I try to like do aesthetics and make it look pretty, it's like, oh, that's nice. scroll.
Yeah, I feel like when I work, so I did I did several book reveal or cover reveal videos because I was like, who knows who's going to see what video. So I did,
Right,
I think,
exactly.
4 or 5 on the same day. And then I have like a trailer kind of thing for my book. And
Mhm.
I feel like those ones, TikTok's like, that's promotion. We're going to like suppress it unless she pays for it. I'm
Right.
like, I'm never going to pay for that.
No,
So,
never gonna put that on a sponsored ad, like, ever.
in fact,
Sorry.
I scroll past those.
I do too, like, even if they're books, I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
As soon as I see sponsored at the bottom,
Cause
I'm
like,
like, "Ugh."
in my head, and this is it may just be me, some people may
Mhm.
love the sponsored ones, that's totally fine, but for me, I'm
Right.
like, it screams desperate to me because
Right.
it's usually authors that I've never seen before, and I'm like,
Same.
not that there's not, I mean, there's so many authors on TikTok that I have
Right.
never seen before,
Millions.
but they come at it genuinely with like, "I wanna be in this community and be a part of this
Yeah.
community," and if you're now paying for friends, that feels icky. Like,
She said pay for friends.
that's what it looks like. I mean,
I mean, I can see that. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because people, and a lot of times people make you feel like you have to pay for the marketing on that side of
yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah.
some marketing I wouldn't doubt that you would have to pay for that benefits you in the long run. But the stuff that I say to you, it's just like, well, yeah, I could do that. How is me talking to you going to help my situation? I don't know, but
So, my first podcast for months, I had it set up on Facebook for ads. It was like $5 a day or something. I had it set up for ads, and all that I got from all of the money that I spent on that was a bunch of angry men complaining about not liking my voice. Like, that's all that I got from those ads was a bunch of those kind of comments. So I stopped. I went to last August of 22, I went to a podcast conference and I was like, I'm going to learn a ton at this conference. So I stopped the ads right before that because I was like, I'm not going to keep throwing money at something that's not
right,
working. And I went to the conference and absolutely no one was like, pay for Facebook ads. They were like, here's social media strategies that work for me.
right,
And might it not work? I'm happen to be all of my podcasts are entertainment ones, which are very, very, very hard to get listenerships on.
right.
But my first podcast has 40,000 something downloads on it. So like I
Yeah.
figured something out and that was definitely not from Facebook ads. So
Right. Yeah, because they try to tell you that that's where it's at. So
yeah.
when I did my like giveaway, I put it on Facebook ads and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and literally just a bunch of old ladies asking what this was. What is this? What is this about? What I was like, I had it range from 18 to like 45, and I had
Mhm.
like 60 plus year olds
Oh
commenting all over
gosh.
my stuff, and I'm like, how is that even? What is their date wrong on their birthday? Like,
So I for my book, I was like, I'm not gonna spend not never, but like for launch, I'm not gonna spend money on ads. I'm like, I'm gonna
yeah,
spend money on someone who has a proven track record of helping authors launch their books. That is what
right,
I focused my money on, and that is what I spent. I'm like, that is my advertising for the launch of this book. Might I do something else later? Maybe, but
right.
I think I'd be better sticking to like people. I've had a bunch of authors talk about like book bubs and like other
Hmm.
like newsletter swaps and things like that being more
Right,
helpful than like Facebook ads. So
right. Well, I mean, yeah, because I know that now my newsletter is because you first start your newsletter, you have the two people that you told her that you're going to do the
yeah,
newsletter, and
the two
that's it
people
for the
that
first
said
like
you need to have a newsletter and then they
right.
follow you.
And so like it wasn't until I did Baby Author Spotlight that my newsletter blew up
Hmm.
because I put that because I was told that if ever you have like a sign up, always make sure your newsletter is at the bottom saying, would you like to have, be a part of the newsletter? Like, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, I should probably do that. So any form that I have now has
Yeah.
at the bottom would you like to sign up with my newsletter? Blah, blah, blah. And of course I guilt trip them. It's like, yeah, I totally want free stuff. No, I don't like free things. Like that's like the options.
I
So,
So for my beta arc street team form, which I
mhm,
have all one form because I have too much other things going on to have 3
right,
forms.
right,
So I have one form, but it has like check boxes, like which team do you want to be on? Here's a description of what you'd be responsible for,
right,
basically. And then at the very, very bottom of that, and I give them the option to be on my newsletter or not, because committing to
right.
a once a week newsletter is different from occasional arc team emails.
Yeah,
But at the
it
very,
definitely
very
is.
bottom, I'm like, "Do you possibly want to be entered in giveaways for free stuff? Give me your address if you do." So, like, I have and some of them have not put their address there, but a lot of
Yeah,
them have.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
I
I've
understand.
yeah. So I mean, I've maybe gotten three out of all of the um things, three no's, like,
Mhm,
no, don't sign me up. Out of all the baby author spotlight forms that got filled out. So, and they're continually being filled out. So,
mhm.
like now my newsletter, I'm like, well, this is great. If ever I lose my platform, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because I got that. Because it's a scary thought because
Well,
the
and that
platforms are
is
dropping off like
those 30-day schedule things that I found talking about your newsletter is on every single one of them.
yeah,
So that is one thing I point out, like, in case this ever goes away, join
yeah.
my newsletter.
Right. And so at the end of every baby author spotlight, I make sure that to even solidify it even more, I put the entire month's list of my baby authors on my newsletter. Every single newsletter has the previous month's baby authors on there
Mm,
and their book and their links to their websites, like every single one of them.
mhm.
And that, that was a lot of work, but that's,
Listen, my
but that's been
newsletter, because I have audiobooks that go live, like, every week or every other week, like, I'm constantly
mhm,
having new audiobooks that I narrated being released, so my newsletter is a weekly newsletter
right.
because in fact, all of my
Because
newsletters are
you,
weekly because I announce things for the different ones, but, so I have on mine, it's like, "Here's the status of my books, and here's any recent releases for audiobooks, and here's the audiobook I'm currently narrating," and, like, my
right.
newsletters are super, super long because it's like I have too many things going on.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom, it's like, "And don't forget the podcasts," and then I
Yeah.
have those.
All right. I have these things too.
Yeah, there's these things too, because I mean, each podcast has its own newsletter too,
Right.
but I also announce it on even though one of the podcasts I host under a different name, I include
Right.
it on because right now Freya has the biggest newsletter list, so
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, just send it out to that," because
Yeah.
most of my ARC team people have been like, "Yeah, send me the newsletter stuff too," and I mean, they can always unsubscribe from it. I'm like, "I'm not, like,
Right.
holding you captive to be on my
Right.
my
Yeah.
list."
I only do mine monthly because I newsletters, I can't. I hate them so much, like to do them. I don't know how people blog. I don't know how people do that kind, like I can't. That's not my
See,
life. That's not how
most
I
of
live.
my newsletter is copying the blurbs from other people's books that I narrated into my so, like,
Right.
my part of writing the newsletter is, like, maybe a paragraph.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, "I can do that every week. That's not a big deal."
Yeah, it's just a thought of another thing to do because
Yeah.
also I homeschool my kids, so like I'm lesson planning and I'm teaching throughout the day. Like we
Mhm.
have breaks because my son has ADHD and he can't sit for a long period of time. So we do a subject, we move around during that subject, and then we take a break because
Mhm.
if I do like two subjects in a row with him, it's like, are we done yet? So like, I have to like give him like 20-minute intervals. So during those 20-minute intervals, I write a couple hundred words while I'm sitting with my,
Yeah.
at my desk or on my laptop. And so it's good. It's been a nice setup,
Mhm.
basically. And but yeah, it's to the thought that I would have to take away that to do newsletters on a weekly basis. I just
Yeah.
nope, nope. Yeah. So what I do is for the whole year, I set up all of my newsletters and then I just edit as the month is carrying
Mm.
on. I add what I want. Like I just do bullet points in
Mhm.
it. And then like right before I send it out, I write a paragraph with all the bullet points essentially of what
Mhm.
happened that month. And then, so I guess I'm doing stuff weekly, but not
Not sending the
not sending
email.
it, not
Yeah.
making it pretty. So, but yeah, so that's been really nice having it that way. Before I had it set up just on my website and I just sent them the private link.
Mhm.
And then someone was like, you should do, one of those MailerLite or MailChimps. So I did MailerLite. I hate it so much, but I mean, it's fine keeping track of everything
Yeah.
like that and the charting and see who's on there, blah, blah.
Mhm.
But I still hate it. I still hate it.
Yeah, I tried MailerLite, but I had for each they don't have a plan where you can have multiple lists under the same account, so I was gonna have to pay for 3 accounts,
Mm,
where MailChimp, I have to pay for it, but I can have 1 account with multiple
well, multiple different.
lists in it, yeah.
Got you.
And
Yeah, I
then
never thought about something like that.
for my day job, I was already familiar with MailChimp because that's what we use for that, and
Right.
so, I was like, "I know how to set it up," and then I figured out, like, under the Freya newsletter, I have it set further, like, set up in, like, beta team and arc team and street team and, like, the actual newsletter itself, and, like, I have everybody, like, divided into separate groups under there
Right.
too. So,
Right.
I could send something to everybody, but typically, like, I have it all set up where it's like, "I'd need to send this to the newsletter subscribers," and I pick that list, and that's who it goes
Yeah.
out to, so I'm very much a prepare. I'm like, I may not be big now. Like when my newsletter list only had like 10 people on it, it was like,
Right.
it's not a big deal if you like copy and paste a list of email addresses. But then when I'm like, okay, my book's getting ready to release, I'm like, you need to prepare. You may not be big with the first book, but pretend like you are going to be big with the first book because like when I did my beta, like my initial beta arc before I brought on the lady to help me build my arc team, I had them filling out a Google form and then I would have to go in and manually enter all their info into MailChimp.
Right.
And I'm like, that is good until you get a whole, like when you get 100 in like a couple of days. And you don't
Right.
want to, which is what happened when I brought
Look.
on the person to help me. And I'm like, I am so glad I didn't have to like manually type all of it. It took me a couple of days to get the form to where it worked right
Right.
with MailChimp. So I'm like, okay, she's sending out an email to her team on like whatever day. And I'm like, you better make sure that your form is working by that
Right.
time.
Because yeah, and that was the only reason why I went to a different
Mhm.
platform instead of manually doing it myself. Because I'm just like, oh crap. Because like I started getting the first like floodings of baby author spotlight, and I was like, oh no, that's not going to be good. When I have to, okay, so let me go ahead and do this. Like, so basically,
Yeah.
it was like, ah, crap.
Well, and you
And
never know what idea you're gonna have that's gonna be the like and this would go for what book. You could write 10 books before you write the one that everybody loves.
right. I
You
was
never
just having this
know.
conversation with my husband. It's like you don't know what book it's gonna be. You don't know
Yeah.
when. It could be the first one, it could be the 10th one. So like
Yeah.
you have to be prepared either way. Like
Yeah.
you have to make sure you got your crap together and you at
Yeah.
least somewhat. Like
Yeah.
so you're not scrambling around.
Yeah.
Oh no, this book went viral. I don't know what to do. Like, let me tell
Yeah.
you, I will say this. I am not prepared if a book goes viral, if they like try to purchase everything on my website. I'm not prepared for that. I'm not. It's just plain and simple. I'm not prepared for like
Yeah.
thousands of orders. It's just not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be on back order for a little bit.
Alright, so last question I like to
Mhm.
ask, and it's actually 2 questions. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten, and the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh man. The
Start with
best
whichever one you want, it doesn't matter.
okay, the worst piece of advice I've ever gotten for me personally
Mhm.
is to walk away from my manuscript for over a month.
Mm.
I've had people say, "Oh, give it like a month or two," and I'm just like, "What?" So that may work for some people,
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't
the
remember it.
no, it's well, I mean, it's not that I won't remember. I just wouldn't be in. I'm a mood and
Mhm.
writer and a mood reader. So I go where the mood. I go where the serotonin is. You know what I mean? Like that's where
Mhm.
I go. And I don't tell me to stop. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't stop. I might be able to take like a weekend break. Even then,
Mhm.
I'm just like my hands are like itching. I'm just like, but I have an idea and I need to, like, so
Yeah.
it's not a fun time for me. I know other people, they need that break. They need that
Mhm.
mental separation from it. And I understand that. Like, I get that. And I'm not telling, but for me personally, like, if you knew me, you would know that you can't tell me to step away for 2 months because
Yeah.
I will have created 3 other books in that 2 month span. So literally, not even a joke.
Yeah.
So that was probably the worst
Clearly.
advice. You can't tell me to step away because I'm still gonna do it. I won't listen. And so the best piece of advice I've ever gotten is don't lose yourself in this process, um, because it's really easy to do.
Mhm.
You get caught up in all of all of it. There's just so
Mhm.
much you have to do.
Mhm.
Um, the best piece of advice I got from a friend was, make sure that you still are you at the end of it. You're
Mhm.
not trying to brand yourself so much that you become the brand and not
Mhm.
stay within your own body. Um, so that's the best piece of advice. And that's what I plan on doing because, yeah, I step away, but I don't step away from the writing. I love that. That's my favorite part. That's why I did
Mhm.
this.
Right.
I step away from all of this, like all the extra stuff that comes with this writing. I
Yeah.
step away from that. That's what I break from. I don't break from like the writing part, the characters and all that stuff. Creating, I don't step away from that. I step away
Mhm.
from the social media aspect of things. And I mean, a lot of times like I go back to old videos and I repost the crap out of them. And when you see me in different hairstyles and a whole bunch of different videos, because I just reposted a whole bunch because I'm not dealing with it today. But yeah, I that's how I roll. I make sure that I maintain work life balance and that this is a job and
Mhm.
not you need a break from it every now and again, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And so that's the best advice I've gotten is take a break from the marketing, from the social media, from the brand,
Mhm.
and you'll do a lot better in the long run.
Also,
So
your brain will be able to recover better,
right.
and also you'll be able to come up with more story ideas if you're out
Right. You won't
doing
burn your
things.
right. See, I won't burn out writing. I'll burn out trying to produce. That's
Mhm.
when I'll burn out. So I that's what was happening to me like earlier on when I was writing book 3. I was burning myself out because I was marketing book 1, book 2, writing book 3 and making sure
Mhm.
everything was good. Then doing all these PR boxes and do like selling this stuff over here and I was at the post office like literally all week long, and it was just like, I can't do it. So it was a lot.
Yeah, my post office I know will do pickups because like PR boxes you can't do media mail when you've got
Right,
other stuff in them.
right,
But I'm like I foresee now me and my mail lady have a good relationship and I've like done like selling stuff on eBay before where they were like,
right.
having to come every day to pick stuff up. But I'm like I foresee them being like, "Hey, like you need to drop them off in
Yeah,
person."
yeah. I already tried to like schedule pickups, and they're just like, nope. like, why? There's like no reason. Like, no, because after a while, like my address got like voided out for some reason.
They were like, "She is on the
They
blacklist."
probably banned me because I was like, what? Because I do media mail, so I didn't think anything of it. And so I guess now you can't, at least for me, I can't do pickup for any of my media mail.
I don't think they let anybody do that anymore because I
Well,
think
they were
now
picking them
even
up before.
well, even, like, on the website now, because I was just, like, trying to look at pricing and stuff like that, on the
Yeah.
website now it says you have to go in person to do it.
See, yeah, because they
So
had,
they may have just changed it.
because I sent a book, media mail, and they picked it up. This was before I was selling, though. Before I was selling my books, I was sending a book to a friend,
Mhm.
and they picked it up. That it was media mail. They picked it up. It was fine. And so I went to, and after I had been doing lots of pickups for
Mhm.
just a whole bunch of stuff, and then I went to do pickup for my books, and they're just like, nope,
Yeah,
sorry.
they may have
So they may
changed
have just
it.
changed the policy. Okay, so I don't
Yeah.
feel as bad.
When I've seen authors now talk about you have to go do it in person, so I don't
Yeah,
think it's just a you thing. I think they just like
yeah,
completely changed the policies.
yeah.
They're like, there's too many indie authors out here
That's
making
probably
us
what
come
was
get their
happening.
books.
We all figured out media mail, so they're like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah. Yeah, so mine, because I'm gonna have, like, stuff given technically, if you're doing, like, anything with your book, I think you aren't supposed to do it media mail, and, like, all of my I'll only be doing signed copies, and that will all have freebie stuff in with it, so I don't think any
Yeah.
of mine will be allowed
So
media.
yeah, so the media mail thing, this is how you can get around it. Because I asked the guy on, I asked him because I was like, so how do we do this? Like, how do we have them? And he was like, well, he's like, if they suspect that something else is in it, they'll open it up, and check.
Mhm.
He's like, but if all of the material in there is pertaining to the book itself, it's not just
Mhm.
random crap in there. He's
Yeah.
like, if it's like all specific to the book, he's like,
Mhm.
then you could get away with it. I was like, oh, really? Good to know. But it's hit or miss, with different branches and everything. So
Right.
like PR boxes for sure, no way.
Yeah,
But
no.
yeah, but a book with a bookmark in it, you can fly by that pretty well because they're not going to check to see like, whoa, I feel like there's something extra in this book.
Yeah, no, and it would be like, I think I have set or like I'm planning on like bookmark and character art, like all things that are gonna be
Right.
like paper, like a thank you card, all things that are gonna be paper things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that should be,
not in the PR box, obviously. That one I'm
yeah.
like, it's gonna be in a box. You can't be like,
Well,
this is media mail if it's a giant box.
yeah.
Like that wouldn't work very well.
I did that once. I was like, it's media mail. She's like, what's in it? I'm like, books. Like, what else would it be?
Books,
It
DVDs, or
was,
what, CDs? I think it has to be one of
yes,
those.
something like that. So I was like, it's books. You're fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's fine. She's like, okay.
All right, well, you have a good rest of your
You
Saturday.
too. You too. Thank
And
you.
I will see you around TikTok.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
All right.
bye.
Bye.
As Teal Combs got older, she liked the movie The Swan Princess. Today we'll be reading The Six Swans by the Brothers Grimm. The Six Swans is a German fairy tale collected by the Brothers Grimm in Grimm's Fairy Tales in 1812. It is of Arne Thompson type 451, the maiden who seeks her brothers, commonly found throughout Europe. Other tales of this type include The Seven Ravens, The 12 Wild Ducks, Udea and her seven brothers, The Wild Swans, and The 12 Brothers. Andrew Lang included a variant of the tale in the Yellow Fairy book. Scholars and folktale catalogs report variants of the tale type across Europe, the Middle East, and even India and Japan, although the number of brothers and their animal form may vary between tales. Don't forget we're reading Les Morts d'Arthur, the story of King Arthur and of his noble knights of the Round Table on our Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes. The Six Swans. A king was once hunting in a large wood, and pursued his game so hotly that none of his courtiers could follow him. But when evening approached, he stopped, and looking around him, perceived that he had lost himself. He sought a path out of the forest, but could not find one, and presently he saw an old woman with a nodding head who came up to him. "My good woman," said he to her, "can you not show me the way out of the forest?" "Oh, yes, my lord king," she replied. "I can do that very well, but upon one condition, which if you do not fulfill, you will never again get out of the wood, but will die of hunger." "What then is this condition?" asked the king. "I have a daughter," said the old woman, "who is as beautiful as anyone you can find in the whole world, and well deserves to be your bride. Now, if you'll make her your queen, I will show you your way out of the wood." In the anxiety of his heart, the king consented, and the old woman led him to her cottage where the daughter was sitting by the fire. She received the king as if she had expected him, and he saw at once that she was very beautiful. But yet she did not quite please him, for he could not look at her without a secret shuddering. However, he took the maiden upon his horse, and the old woman showed him the way, and the king arrived safely at his palace where the wedding was to be celebrated. The king had been married once before, and had 7 children by his first wife, 6 boys and a girl whom he loved above everything else in the world. He became afraid soon that the stepmother might not treat his children very well, and might even do them some great injury, so he took them away to a lonely castle which stood in the midst of a forest. The castle was so entirely hidden, and the way to it was so difficult to discover, that he himself could not have found it if a wise woman had not given him a ball of cotton, which had the wonderful property, when he threw it before him, of unrolling itself and showing him the right path. The king went, however, so often to see his dear children, that the queen, noticing his absence, became inquisitive, and wished to know what he went to fetch out of the forest. So she gave his servants a great quantity of money, and they disclosed to her the secret, and also told her of the ball of cotton which alone could show her the way. She had now no peace until she discovered where this ball was concealed, and then she made some fine silken shirts, and as she had learned of her mother, she sewed within each a charm. One day soon after, when the king was gone out hunting, she took the little shirts and went into the forest, and the cotton showed her the path. The children, seeing someone coming in the distance, thought it was their dear father and ran out full of joy. Then she threw over each of them a shirt that, as it touched their bodies, changed them into swans, which flew away over the forest. The queen then went home quite contented and thought she was free of her stepchildren. But the little girl had not met her with the brothers, and the queen did not know of her. The following day the king went to visit his children, but he found only the maiden. "Where are your brothers?" asked he. "Ah, dear father," she replied, "they are gone away and have left me alone." And she told him how she had looked out of the window and seen them changed into swans, which had flown over the forest. And then she showed him the feathers which they had dropped in the courtyard and which she had collected together. The king was much grieved, but he did not think that his wife could have done this wicked deed, and as he feared the girl might also be stolen away, he took her with him. She was, however, so much afraid of the stepmother that she begged him not to stop more than one night in the castle. The poor maiden thought to herself, "This is no longer my place. I will go and seek my brothers." And when night came, she escaped and went quite deep into the wood. She walked all night long and a great part of the next day until she could go no further from weariness. Just then she saw a rough-looking hut, and going in, she found a room with 6 little beds, but she dared not get into one, so crept under, and laying herself upon the hard earth, prepared to pass the night there. Just as the sun was setting, she heard a rustling and saw 6 white swans come flying in at the window. They settled on the ground and began blowing one another until they had blown all their feathers off, and their swan's down slipped from them like a shirt. And the maiden knew them at once for her brothers and gladly crept out from under the bed, and the brothers were not less glad to see their sister, but their joy was of short duration. "Here you must not stay," said they to her. "This is a robber's hiding place. If they should return and find you here, they would murder you." "Can you not protect me, then?" inquired the sister. "No," they replied, "for we can only lay aside our swan's feathers for a quarter of an hour each evening, and for that time we regain our human form, but afterwards we resume our changed appearance." Their sister then asked them with tears, "Can you not be restored again?" "Oh, no," replied they. "The conditions are too difficult. For 6 long years you must neither speak nor laugh, and during that time you must sew together for us 6 little shirts of starflowers. And should there fall a single word from your lips, then all your labors will be in vain." Just as the brothers were finished speaking, the quarter of an hour elapsed, and they all flew out of the window again like swans. The little sister, however, made a solemn resolution to rescue her brothers, or die in the attempt, and she left the cottage and, penetrating deep into the forest, passed the night amid the branches of a tree. The next morning she went out and collected the starflowers to sew together. She had no one to converse with, and for laughing she had no spirits. So there, up in the tree, she sat, intent upon her work. After she had passed some time there, it happened that the king of that country was hunting in the forest, and his huntsmen came beneath the tree on which the maiden sat. They called to her and asked, "Who art thou?" But she gave no answer. "Come down to us," continued they. "We will do thee no harm." She simply shook her head. And when they pressed her further with questions, she threw down to them her gold necklace, hoping therewith to satisfy them. They did not, however, leave her, and she threw down her girdle, but in vain, and even her rich dress did not make them desist. At last the huntsman himself climbed the tree and brought down the maiden and took her before the king. The king asked her, "Who art thou? What dost thou upon that tree?" But she did not answer, and then he questioned her in all the languages that he knew, but she remained dumb to all as a fish. Since, however, she was so beautiful, the king's heart was touched, and he conceived for her a strong affection. And then he put around her his cloak, and placing her before him on his horse, took her to his castle. There he ordered rich clothing to be made for her, and although her beauty shone as the sunbeams, not a word escaped her. The king placed her by his side at the table, and there her dignified mien and manners so won upon him that he said, "This maiden will I marry, and no other in the world." And after some days he wedded her. Now the king had a wicked stepmother, who was discontented with his marriage and spoke evil of the young queen. "Who knows whence the wench comes?" said she. "She who cannot speak is not worthy of a king." A year after, when the queen brought her firstborn into the world, the old woman took him away. Then she went to the king and complained that the queen was a murderess. The king, however, would not believe it, and suffered no one to do any injury to his wife, who sat composedly sewing at her shirts and paying attention to nothing else. When a second child was born, the false stepmother used the same deceit. But the king again would not listen to her words, saying, "She is too pious and good to act so. Could she but speak and defend herself, her innocence would come to light." But when again the old woman stole away the third child and then accused the queen, who answered not a word to the accusation, the king was obliged to give her up to be tried, and she was condemned to suffer death by fire. When the time had elapsed and the sentence was to be carried out, it happened that the very day had come round when her dear brother should be set free. The 6 shirts were also ready, all but the last, which yet wanted the left sleeve. As she was led to the scaffold, she placed the shirts upon her arm, and just as she had mounted it, and the fire was about to be kindled, she looked around and saw 6 swans come flying through the air. Her heart leapt for joy as she perceived her deliverers approaching, and soon the swans flying towards her alighted so near that she was enabled to throw over them the shirts, and as soon as she had done so, their feathers fell off, and the brother stood up alive and well. But the youngest was without his left arm, instead of which he had a swan's wing. They embraced and kissed each other, and the queen, going to the king, who was thunderstruck, began to say, "Now may I speak, my dear husband, and prove to you that I am innocent and falsely accused." And then she told him how the wicked woman had stolen away and hidden her 3 children. When she had concluded, the king was overcome with joy, and the wicked stepmother was led to the scaffold and bound to the stake and burnt to ashes. The king and queen forever after lived in peace and prosperity with their 6 brothers. Thank you for joining Freya's Fairy Tales. Be sure to come back next week for Ty's journey to holding his own fairy tale in his hands, and to hear one of his favorite fairy tales.